Hello, and welcome to the Music is My Life podcast from Berklee Online. I'm your host, Pat Healy, and take note that at the end of this episode, you will have an opportunity to take a Berklee Online course for $100 off the original price. Stay tuned for the credits or look for the details in the meta description of this episode. But for now, let's get to the show. Our guest this episode is Ron Pope, who you may know for his song A Drop in the Ocean, which has racked up nearly 190 million streams on Spotify alone. That's more than I Want to Hold Your Hand, more than Beast of Burden, more than Bootylicious, and really, those are the three songs against which we should measure all musical accomplishments, aren't they? Anyway, Ron Pope also runs a label, Brooklyn Basement Records, which he runs with his wife Blair. And from Brooklyn Basement comes his 14th album, Bone Structure, which was just released earlier this month. He's currently touring to promote that album, so check ronpopemusic.com for dates near you. He's been playing in bands since he was a teenager, and like many of our guests, his earliest memories of music involve his family. Let's let him tell you all about it.
I remember as a kid riding in the car singing along with my dad and my brother, and we would sing very loudly. My dad had an old Saab that always broke down, and then he's a big guy, so he would have to kind of like kickstart the thing, so he sort of looked like he was, on a scooter or something, but he was this big man starting this Saab. And I remember singing along to the Eagles with my dad and my brother, but we sang along to lots of stuff. My dad has pretty diverse tastes, but I remember singing the Eagles as a kid in the car with my dad, pretty particularly as a moment as a little kid where I was like, oh, music is fun, I really like it. But in terms of wanting to make music, I think the big formative moments for me, a lot of them revolve around Bruce Springsteen. Because I kind of felt like he was like me, which I think a lot of people feel like, which is probably not true. He's probably not like us at all. He's exceptional. That's why he's Bruce Springsteen. But, that's one of his gifts, is that he can make you feel that way. And so, as a kid, I felt very alone and very strange because I lived in a place where I didn't meet a lot of people like me.
That was Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not so, it's every kid in every, small town in America feels this way to some degree, I'm sure. It's not particularly being from Georgia, certainly.
Right.
I just didn't meet a lot of like-minded people. And, listening to music, connected me to the outside world in a way that my real life didn't. And I think, Springsteen, writing songs about real people living very regular lives really struck me a great deal. And obviously, I would say, kind of influenced my path forever.
When do you start playing with other people, and are you playing with other people in your house, in the family, or are you the only one who's taken up an instrument?
We all liked music a lot. Like, everybody is a big music fan, certainly. Like, my dad would sing with us sometimes, but sing along to the radio. So nobody else played music. My stepdad is the biggest of all music fans in my family. He is a metalhead, so he introduced me to a lot of cool stuff. And he plays a little, but we weren't playing music together. He was the first person to try to show me how to play at all, and I was maybe 10 or something. Yeah. And I didn't listen and didn't start learning then, but he did try to sit me down and show me some chords and stuff. My friends started to play together, it was a very kind of gradual thing. We would go over to my friend's house, my friend Marcus, and he had the run of his family's basement.
Right.
He had claimed it as his space. And so sometimes we would go there and just watch Kings of Comedy in one of the rooms and fall asleep and, try to sneak beers. And occasionally we would play music together. And so that became my first band.
Yeah.
But it was a very kind of organic, we weren't let's start a band. We were hanging out, eating sandwiches and, whatever, just messing around and, going out in the yard to throw a baseball. And then every once in a while somebody would be like, you want to get out our guitars?
Yeah.
And then it kind of got more and more serious. And by the time I got to the summer between high school and college, we were definitely like, we are a band. We are in a band.
What did you call yourselves?
So that band was called Longfellow.
Okay.
Which I don't think I've ever spoken that word in an interview before.
Well, we're in Massachusetts here, so Longfellow is close to our hearts.
One of the kids in the band, Chris Keenel, who I grew up with, who was my best friend as a child, and was still like my brother. Chris's father had been a folk singer, and he called himself Patrick Longfellow.
Okay.
And so since we borrowed his nylon string guitar, to start writing songs, we named the band in his honor, actually.
I mean, you mentioned baseball earlier, like throwing the baseball. That's what you went to school
Yeah, I went
for?
to college to play baseball. Yeah. I went to Rutgers for 2 years to do that, and then I hurt my hip, and I was also very bad. And so those two things combined made me not play baseball anymore.
Yeah.
Were
you starting to take music more seriously in that time, or was it because of the injury that you said, plan B?
Once I got to college, I had a lot more free time than I had ever had before, which is crazy because baseball really does fill your schedule.
Yeah.
College sports are like they call you a student athlete, but you were definitely an athlete student at most schools. At least in my experience and the experiences of my friends, they treat you as if it's your job to play the sport, and then also you have to sneak in getting an education.
Yeah.
But I ended up having a lot more time, I would say, than in college than I had ever had before, and so I would bring my guitar with me and sit in my car during the day at different times, and I would sit and practice when it was cold in my car.
Not in your dorm room?
No, I didn't live in a dorm.
Oh, okay.
So,
were you commuting? Or?
Yeah, I was commuting.
Oh, okay.
And so I bring my guitar with me every day, and because my car was a quiet place where no one was watching, and so I could sit. So I would play for a few hours doing that every day, or if it was nice out, I'd sit somewhere outside under a tree or something and practice. But I would spend a few hours every day playing in between. I had to get up very early too because we had conditioning in the morning. So that started at 5 some days.
Right.
And so I would get there, I would do that, go to a class at 8 o'clock, and maybe I'd have the next period off, and I would go and I'd play, and back and forth throughout the day. So I did a lot of that at college.
So you had moved from Georgia and were living in Jersey and then commuting. Mm-hmm. So when was that move? Was that during your childhood or?
No, that was when I went to college. I went to
really?
College. Yeah, I moved to college.
Oh, okay.
My family is from New Jersey.
Okay.
And so my mom decided I grew up in Georgia, but then we went. They followed me to college basically and moved home, which was a real bummer. That's one of those things your parents do that when you become a parent you're not gonna do that. Just put it in my list of things I'm not gonna do.
So tell me, you transferred to NYU and you start taking music a lot more seriously then.
Yeah. So I always had been in a band. And I had always been making music with my friends, but my band was terrible. My songs I thought were terrible. I had been taking voice lessons in an attempt to improve my voice, but I don't know that my voice was especially good. And then I got to NYU. I joined a songwriting circle, and in the songwriting circle, there were a lot of people who were pretty accomplished already, a few years older than me, graduate students, and people who had taken time off and come back, who had toured and made records, and there were a lot of people who they were like, "You're good. You should do this. You should do it seriously." I was constantly writing songs, and I've pretty much always done that. I usually write more like 2 songs every week. There were weeks where I would write a song every day, or some weeks I would write 2 songs every day. I was very, very serious about it. It was something that I was doing all the time, even though I wasn't I'm going to be a musician. I'd never known professional musicians before. The people that I knew, growing up playing in the bars and stuff, that they were, guys that went to work during the day and played the blues at night. There was a lot of that going around, a lot of dad bands.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know that it was possible for me to be a professional musician. I had not considered it in any way. I was interested in music, so I was taking music classes, and interested in music, so I was taking lessons and all those things. But it was because I liked it and I wanted to improve at it, not because I thought someone would pay me for it. But in that group, they really fostered my belief in myself as a songwriter for the first time. They really thought I was good, and they encouraged me to keep writing, and they helped me learn to be a better writer. They workshopped my songs. That was the point of the club, was you would come and you'd workshop songs.
Right.
It was also a very important part of my education, being in that group, to of my best friends, Paul Hammer, who plays in my touring band and has his own band, Savoir Adore. Paul Hammer and Zach Berkman, who is also the heart of, Zach Berkman, the heart of.
Yeah.
Those two fellas, I met them in this songwriting circle.
And he co-wrote A Drop in the Ocean.
Zach co-wrote A Drop in the Ocean with me when he was my roommate. Meeting those guys in that circle was also incredibly important for me because our relationship began in a place where we were workshopping songs. Like, we know the language of that. We know the etiquette of it. And so we all can workshop each other's stuff without hurting feelings, where we understand the value of constructive criticism. Nobody just says, I don't like this. We say, perhaps the pre-chorus could strike me differently if, have you thought about trying this and this and this? And, the way that we wrote A Drop in the Ocean a few years into this was I had written a few parts. The chorus used to have different words as well.
Okay.
It was a different song when I first wrote it. I had the Still I Can't Let You Be, Most Nights I Hardly Sleep, that thing. I had that, which is the pre-chorus now. And I have the thing that is now the bridge. It was the end of the song. And I had the chorus with different words. So I went out into the living room and I saw Zach and I said, hey Zach, can you come in here? I want to show you this thing and ask you about it. I sit down at the piano, I play, Still I Can't Let You Be, Most Nights I Hardly Sleep. I play him the chorus, I play him the parts. I was like, what would you play for a verse on this? And he said, play me the parts again. I'm like, okay, so I Can't Let You Be, play him all the things. So he sits down at the piano and he goes, dun, 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 and he plays the melodic, thing that is the central theme of the song. Yeah. Just straight away. He's like, how's that? I was like, yeah, cool, okay. I honestly had no idea that song was special, to the degree that it has been special, obviously. But yeah, the way that we got to it, though, was we were willing to co-write, we were willing to workshop, we were willing to take notes and work together. And sometimes it's not in a co-writing setting, sometimes it's just workshopping. It's just have you thought about, this one lyrical thing that is maybe a little weird or, something like that, but we wouldn't say it's, it's weird.
Right.
Like I said, we're always very polite about it. That's the key to workshopping. So.
And the District was kind of a rock band, right?
Yeah, we were definitely if you came to see a show live, it was very much a kind of a southern rock, roots rock kind of a thing. And we also were taking turns singing lead like the band to some degree, but I was singing kind of the bulk of the lead vocals. But Paul sang some, Zach sang some, a number of the other guys, took turns singing. And later on, now this is my dad band that I do for fun, occasionally. Mostly we're a group text now, to be fair. It's
great.
A lot of one of us taking a selfie holding one of our kids, or somebody's on the Long Island Railroad, chugging a tall boy or something. We're because we met as kids, so we're still, we can still be kids with each other a little bit, even though we're all, grown-ups with, real adult stuff to worry about all the time.
I like that. Are you guys a group? Oh, we're more of a group text.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's been one of the great joys of my life to get to share it with those men. They're the best people I know. But
so you recorded a song.
Yeah, we were in a band, and I never had any desire to be a solo artist. I had never sat on a stool with an acoustic guitar and made people cry. But some of the songs that we were putting out, the early District records, we were very actively trying to make music that really didn't sound anything like our show.
Yeah.
We were trying to make, I don't know, a kind of a pop rock sort of thing, because immediately when we started playing in New York, every major label wanted to sign us. It was obscene.
Wow.
And because and part of this is sort of a happy accident, I guess. I mean, most of it is. It's we were 6 young, fairly cute boys. And at NYU, a collection of 6 boys that all like to party is it's like catnip.
Yeah.
There aren't when I was in school there, it was 70-30 girls to boys or something like that. It was a very high percentage of the population was ladies. And so we were very popular at school as a result of this. And so the first show maybe had 10 of our friends. And the next show had 30 people, and maybe 10 of them we didn't know. And the next time we played, there was 350 kids. The club was packed into the street. And so word got out that there was a thing happening. But it was actually terrible because the band was garbage. We were horrible.
Yeah.
We were mostly like a a rolling party. We weren't like a good band. Like nobody was very good. I'll take that back. Paul was very good even then. All the rest of us were garbage.
Okay, great.
But we were mostly, it was still like, it was fun. We were, having fun. We were like just throwing a party. But so we were trying to record music that we thought would make sense in a commercial way. I think that's what we were like. The first record was treated more like a demo to show that we could do stuff like other than drink a beer and like play a guitar solo standing on the kick drum. As I was writing this acoustic music, I kind of it really didn't fit the district. It really didn't work. 2005, I made a MySpace with my name on it, like because the band already had one. And that was kind of my.
Did the band put you in their top 12? Was it? But no, was it something where the band was cool with it? And
yeah, I wasn't like pursuing it.
Yeah.
I was just like, I have these songs. Most of the other guys were also songwriters who did something else.
Right. Okay.
And so I was just like very focused and determined to make people hear the band. And so that meant a great deal to me. So I think nobody could be mad at me for adding more work onto my plate because I did so much already. For our project. I just put some songs on there, and then I would just write people, and say, hey, I notice you like, Elliott Smith. I was like looking up people like Elliott Smith. I'm a real person. I'm not a robot. I have this new song out. Would you listen to it and tell me what you think about it? I'd love to hear your actual opinions. And some people, be like, leave me alone, creep. But mostly, because this is early stages in social media.
Right.
And so that was 2005, I think that I did that. So we put out the first band record in 2004. 2005, I've got some solo recordings, or 2005 into 2006. And then it was 2007 when the shift occurred where it went from I'm a guy in a band who kind of has a little solo project, sort of, like sometimes, to like I am going to do the Ron Pope project. It was October of 2007, and it went from like the first Monday of October, I was getting maybe 100 plays a day. And the next Monday, I got 1,000. And the next Monday, I got 10,000. And the next Monday, I got 100,000. And I had released a handful of songs, kind of in rapid succession. Fireflies, A Drop in the Ocean, You're the Reason I Come Home, I think was one of them. Headlights on the Highway, maybe. Like a handful of these songs that have really resonated with fans, ever since. I had found this group of early adopters that wanted to be a mouthpiece for new music. I released enough songs in this short order that they really loved, and they just went crazy with them. And so this small group of devoted people became a big group of devoted people very quickly. And I had been, actively working to build this group of people, certainly for, a few years at that point.
Right.
But I had no idea that it could reach this sort of critical mass where all of a sudden we're thundering down the mountain. And, at that point I was one of the most popular unsigned artist in the world.
Wow.
And so it was pretty striking. The most important part of my entire story, I would say, is that my friend Jake Smith had been in the first round of interns at TuneCore. And TuneCore is a digital distribution company that you can upload your music and put it on iTunes and Spotify and all the places that music goes. My friend Jake Smith was an intern there, and he was like, you should use this thing, put your music on iTunes and then you can sell it. And so it went from a whole bunch of people are listening to me to now they can buy my music.
Right.
And that was a big deal, obviously. Yeah. And so 2008 was the first year that I made my living making music.
Your wife is your manager, right?
Yes. So my wife and I, we started dating a few months before all of this happened. Mm-hmm. When I was just like super broke and, living with a bunch of guys in Harlem and not really sure how I was going to get where I was going. I mean, I was determined, but I wasn't sure how I was going to get there. And so Blair was working in advertising. And then over the years, as my career began to kind of get going, I had a series of trash bag managers, just like horrible, like one worse than the next, people who didn't care, didn't do a good job, didn't pay attention, like let all kinds of horrible things happen to me. I had a series of bad business managers. So Blair helped solve a lot of issues before she was managing for real. She was managing in practice. She'd say, oh, this flyer looks terrible. Like let me design you a flyer. Like, oh, let me fix the website. Oh, I'll make this call for you. Like let me do this. Let me do that. Blah blah blah. She would help here, help there. Because she was a serious professional person who had her head on straight. She could just do a lot of things. She's smart and incredibly capable. And so she just kind of kept solving problems. Like at some point she started taking photography classes and then started shooting a lot of the photos.
Yeah.
She just keeps adding things to her plate. But at some point, for many years, I had been working, the career had been growing, everything was, bubbling up. And she was now, she'd become my manager, but she still had her job. So she had a full-time job in advertising and was managing me and my career definitely at that point. Like really, I needed a staff. And instead we were like, well, what if we just hire her? Just if she comes full-time and we like take this family business thing and we really go for it. And this is before we were engaged. This is the year we got engaged, I believe is when she left her full-time job and came to manage me. We're lucky in that we're good at being partners. We can kind of do anything together and get along doing it.
Did she come on tour? And you've got a new daughter too.
Yes, I do have a new daughter. She's 21 months old now.
That's
21
amazing.
months. I'm still counting months. She's almost 2 years old. Blair will come on tour sometimes, but honestly, she's very busy because over the course of the time that she was managing me and I was writing songs and producing for people and doing that kind of stuff, we realized we were functioning as a record label for me. Obviously, I stayed independent almost the entirety of my career except for one brief, period on a major label. Otherwise, I stayed independent.
That was just the single, right? Or was the album on?
We gave them 2 singles, and then I got them back in the end.
Yeah.
So now we own all the recordings, and we own all my publishing. So we were functioning as a label. We owned all these recordings, and so at some point we were like, well, we're doing all this stuff that labels do. Why don't, there's so many artists we want to help, but like her just managing people, it was challenging because people would find roadblocks. And me just producing and writing for people, it was the same thing. Like I'd work on a song with somebody and work on a record or whatever, and then it wouldn't come out because there were management issues, there were label issues, whatever. And so we decided we would start a record label for real and start signing artists, to give us kind of a vehicle, both as, for me as a writer and a producer and her as a manager, just to kind of help shape the careers of people that we liked and we wanted to help.
And you started that in a Brooklyn basement, I'm guessing?
Yes, we were living in a duplex in Brooklyn, and so we lived upstairs, and the label was run out of the basement for the first few years, and so it's called Brooklyn Basement Records. Right. And now we're in Nashville, above ground, which is funny. But yeah, so she's very busy running that label. Now we have 3 full-time employees and her, and they're in Nashville, and so she's very busy, being a boss and taking on the world, and like running our business and mentoring, people that are coming up in the industry, and just trying to do it all. I mean, we're lucky in that what we're trying to do is compete, with these multinational corporations staffed by hundreds of people all over the world, and we have been able to so far. Right. But it takes an incredible amount of work, and it would be impossible without her. So she doesn't always come on tour because she has stuff to do.
Yeah. So what happened with Republic in the single?
I negotiated a reversion of Master's Clause because, I had already kind of done this dance with the major labels when I was in the District. Like the District had gotten very popular in the clubs, and everybody's trying to sign us, and we were trying to figure out how to get signed. When it was this is my second rodeo, not my first. At that point, I had sold either many hundreds of thousands or just over 1 million digital tracks at that point. I knew that I didn't need a record deal to live. I wanted a record deal to see if we could go the rest of the way up the mountain. I wanted to reach as many people as possible. This is absolutely still the truth. Like no person has ever really gone all the way up the mountain without a major label or the interference of a major label in some way. They're helping somehow. Yeah. Whether you're utilizing the radio department of a major or whatever, like no one's doing it on their own. It's not anybody that tells you that they are is lying. Right. But I knew that I had a lot of leverage because we were selling so much music that I didn't need their money. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to negotiate a bunch of things that were very, very valuable to my future. The reversion of Master's Clause was a big one, and so that when the deal was over, I would get my recordings back. Major label accounting, I don't want to say that it is criminal because I'm not going to accuse people of committing a crime, but it's definitely evil. Yeah. And it's, designed to beat you. And so even though I had made a great deal of money for this label over the, short period of time that I spent, I still actually had to give them some money in the end to get my recordings back. At the time, my lawyer said it costs so much money to audit them that it's better to just pay them this small sum that they want from you rather than auditing them. Right. And I wanted to audit them on principle. Yeah. But there's also only a handful of people that can do that in the world. So it's like a very particular service. Right. And it's very expensive. And so I didn't do that. But Anyway, I got a reversion of master's clause. I also got an out clause where the deal was for a limited amount of time, and then if I didn't agree to continue, they had to release me. You know, it was like 9 months. It was a little bit like being in middle school. It's like I knew what I wanted to do, but I always had to ask for money and permission.
Yeah.
It didn't suit me because they didn't care. Like that's the thing. They added $0 worth of value to my career. They did nothing for me at all. They didn't promote it in any meaningful way. We already had really kind of, tangible evidence that the song was a runaway hit. I was like, if I'm going to give you a recording of A Drop in the Ocean, if you can't make this work, you can't make anything work. That was something, one of the reasons now that we have shifted, in the beginning of having Brooklyn Basement Records, we wanted to, we wanted to help people, but we started a conventional label. And so we felt like owning people's masters was sort of like antithetical to our mission. We've been doing a lot of these marketing partnerships where artists sign on for a period of time, and it's a service that we sell basically, so that in the end, you own your recordings and we're not taking them. There's no back end. Like you did that. That's your work that you paid to create, and it belongs to you. That's something that's, an interesting facet of, signing a record deal. Like a record deal traditionally means that these people own your recordings forever. I'm glad to have had the experience. It was a valuable lesson, but it was a very expensive lesson, certainly too.
Yeah. So the new album, you had written pretty much everything and then you scrapped it all?
Yeah, we'd recorded it too.
Oh, you recorded it too?
Yeah. This is kind of crazy. We were in London at the beginning of 2019. So my daughter is, I don't know, 8 months old or so at this point. She and my wife were with me. I had flown out to play some gigs, and I came back and the car dropped me off in front of the house. I went inside and the driver called me frantic a few minutes later. And he was like, these men in a black BMW SUV cut me off, like right in front of your house, like two doors down after I pulled out from in front of your house. They jumped out. They had masks on. They were screaming. It was terrifying. I'm not sure what was happening, if it was random, if they were trying to attack me or what's going on. It was just like he was very afraid. And at first I thought it was some kind of scam. I went and I looked out the window, and this late model BMW SUV he said it had very dark tints. It was parked in front of my house.
Yeah.
Like just sitting there, like running in front of my house. And so I was really scared. I was like, oh wow, this is real. Like something bad is happening and I don't know what it is. Like, the police talk to us about it and they think, it's like probably just a random crime. They weren't targeting any, us in particular, obviously. It was just like they saw this, I was in a van, like a black van, like transport van. So they saw this van, figured, maybe somebody's coming from the airport or something, they can rob them.
Right.
So the cops made us, feel much better about the whole thing. It was just like a random act that just happened near us. Right. But since we didn't know what was going on in the beginning, this was an incredibly terrifying thing. Like in the end, it's like nothing really happened, thankfully. Right. But it was more how scared it made us in that brief period. I'm glad, in the end, nothing happened, but it really shook me up. And there's nothing quite like having children to make you think about how fragile life is. I really thought a lot about how short our lives are now that I have a child that you want to live forever and see everything that they do and be with them and help them. This experience really, really shook me up. And so I started thinking about the idea kind of obsessively. What if I'm not there when she grows up? What happens, it doesn't have to be that some, bad guys decide to come and kill you. It's like you could step in front of a truck by accident. You could get the flu and die.
Right. But yeah, I remember after my son was born, I distinctly remember like a week later, like crossing the street and being like, oh, I can't die now. Like,
yeah.
I have to make sure I don't die. I mean,
yeah.
It's generally a guiding principle of life anyway, but it becomes more reinforced.
And to be fair, much of my life was lived incredibly recklessly, or not for a long time, but much of the early part of my adult life. So because this whole thing was so terrifying and I was afraid to die and I was thinking a lot about it, what if I'm not here when she grows up? I decided to try to make an entire album where all the songs speak to my daughter. Only make it for an audience of one. That's it, just for her, and to see what that would feel like. I knew that I was on the right track when I started doing this because Blair, who's Blair's in charge of the business. Blair was willing to continue giving me money, because I had spent a lot of money. I was almost done recording an album. She was like, what you're doing now is better and it's meaningful. And so all the songs on the album are either me talking about my experience as being a father or telling stories from my own life that have a moral of some kind that I think she might be able to use. I'm speaking to her as an adult in a lot of this. It's like, if I'm not here to tell you this, this is, when you're 26 and you need this, here it is, or whatever, whatever point it is. And so one of the songs on the record, we're on the Stuck on the Moon tour right now. One of the songs on the record is called Stuck on the Moon. That it's an example of, one of the things I was like, should I be talking about this? And I felt like I had to be honest with her. It's about the guy who used to be my cocaine dealer.
Okay.
And I realized when I was at some point as I was living, in this very reckless way, I always thought that musicians had to act a certain way. Like if you wanted to be a musician, you had to live dangerously. Like all of the people that I loved and admired were lunatics, like Keith Richards and Joe Walsh and those kinds of folks were, they lived on the edge. And so I thought you had to take drugs and you had to be involved in wild nighttime activities. You couldn't go to bed and get up early and take care of yourself like that. Then you couldn't be a musician. What I realized was all of those things that I was doing, they were hindering my ability to, accomplish the things that I was hoping to accomplish. They were holding me back from really fulfilling everything, my destiny, I guess, to some extent, to living out my dreams in a real way. Because, Keith Richards is great, not because he took drugs. He's great in spite of the fact that he took drugs. Drugs didn't make him Keith Richards. It has to do with his legend, certainly, the drugs are involved in. But in terms of, him being a musician, that's not the thing. And so the song Stuck on the Moon talks about that, just like me, kind of waking up, feeling rattled and living this life, trying to take a shot to get where I'm trying to go and falling short. I think, that was an important thing for me to learn, but it was dangerous and it was stupid and it, could have cost me my life. And I'm lucky that it didn't. And so, all of that stuff is in there. It's stories about, there's the song Bone Structure is about the experience where I learned that sometimes lust masquerades as love. You think that you're in love, but it's not. The experience in my life learning about that is in there. It's like, who wants to talk to their children about lust? It's like, I don't. But at some point, I figured, what if she is confused and needed that lesson? And so it was a strange thing to do because it's sort of like, it's like I'm writing these little notes from beyond the grave and leaving them. It's like when you have kids, if you get life insurance. I had never considered life insurance before, and then I had a daughter and I got life insurance because it's there just in case. Just in case something bad happens, here it is for you. And that's what this record is to some extent. It's interesting now to be talking about it with other people and sharing it with other people because I really did just make it absolutely pointed at her. So it's been, a unique experience for me.
Have you sang these songs to her? I mean, granted, you've recorded them all for her, but
yes.
Are you doing any lullaby versions for her at night?
When we are playing music, we're usually playing music together. I don't play music at her. Usually it's she'll go up to the piano and she'll hit it. And that's my signal to, I open the lid and pull out the bench and she sits in my lap and we'll play the piano together a little bit. And we listen to records. We have a record player in the house. And so she'll go up to the record player and she presses the on button. And then, we'll pick a record out and we'll listen. I also have tried to make music not be a super precious thing. Don't bother Dad. He's practicing. It's if I'm practicing and she comes in the room, I pick her up. It's if I need to work on something where I have to be alone or I go and be by myself. But by and large, I try to I want music to be happening around her all the time so that she sees it. I don't want her to want to be a musician, certainly. If she wanted to do it, of course we would support her, but I hope desperately that she wants to do something else, not in the entertainment industry.
Just because you've been through it.
Yeah, it's just first of all, it's peopled by sharks. You can spend your whole life working very, very hard and you can be incredible and get nothing for it. It's if you worked your whole life, if you wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon who specialized in hand surgery, you know what to do. You go to high school, you get good grades, you get into a good college, you go to college, you take the right classes, you get through physical chemistry and organic chemistry, and then you get into medical school, you go to medical school, you get out, you do a year of general surgery, 7 years of orthopedics, 2 years of a hand specialization, then you're a hand surgeon.
Yeah.
You work your whole life, and then you do it, you have it. As long as you are hardworking and disciplined, then you can have it. But in entertainment, there's nothing like that. Like,
right.
I worked very hard, and Blair worked very hard, and we are, focused and disciplined, and very serious about what we do. But I also got hit by lightning to some degree. You know, like I wrote a song that a lot of people really, really love. This song continues to be consumed at a rate that is staggering. And then I wrote another one, and then I wrote another one, like that people really like, not to that degree, obviously, but like over the course of my adult life, as I've been writing these songs, like every few years I write something that people really, really like. And that's chance, like that's luck to some degree. I mean, like I learned to write songs and I worked on all the facets of it, and we learned how to be in the music business and try to share the music, but it's a miracle. Like to some degree, it's a miracle. It's like, there's no guarantees in it. So I don't know. I mean, she can do anything she wants. I mean, we'll support her or anything. And I want her to have music in her life and in her heart. So we try to fill her days with it. But no, I'm not sitting in front of her playing songs.
Right. No, but that's a really good point you made about there's no track for it. And that's basically why we have this podcast, is so people can listen and find out other people's stories and maybe find the one kernel of maybe I should try that, Yeah. And it feels like the whole industry is maybe I should try that.
100%. Like one of the reasons that we have been successful is like Blair creates these incredibly detailed release plans, like something that we do that not a lot of other people do. And everybody that we work with is like, oh my goodness, can I show this to this other client? And that, everybody we work with says that to her. And the idea that like a major label that has been in business for decades doesn't know to do that is ludicrous, but they know just as much as anybody else at this point, because it's the Wild West. Because my wife has become this this authority in the music business. To some extent, we still feel like we're making it up as we go, but every once in a while, you meet with people at a major label and they'll talk about, they're like, well, we're thinking about this year, like rolling out like some kind of like a streaming strategy, like we're gonna have like some kind of plan to, to reach out to Spotify, maybe get on some playlists. I'm like, that's your plan in 2020? Like that's all you've got right now? But they're like, they don't know. They're like, my thing is I pay $100,000 and we start a radio campaign, and if it works, we spend another $100,000.
Yeah. It's
like everybody's learning to navigate this world as it changes.
Is that exciting to you or nerve-wracking?
It's a tough call. I would say on an intellectual level, it's exciting, it's stimulating. We're always trying to, figure out how to keep going. And we've had to do that a bunch of times, through the course of the, when I first started out, I was selling digital singles and albums, getting 70 cents a single and $7 an album on iTunes. That was unbelievable. It was great. But then at some point, I'll circle back to my friend Jake again. Jake, at some point, after he was an intern at TuneCore, he got a job there. And I called him on the phone and I was like, hey man, I just got a bunch of money in my TuneCore account from this thing. It's called Spotify. Is it mine? Because if I take it, I'm not giving it back.
Right.
And he's like, I'll call you back in 15 minutes. And he went and he looked and he was like, no, it's real. It's a streaming service. It was only in, I think, Sweden at that point.
In Europe.
I knew that this was going to be revelatory because no one was making any money from music in Sweden because they were like really early into music piracy. No one was making money from recorded music there. And then all of a sudden, it was like thousands of dollars. Like I never made a dime in Sweden. And so I knew that this was going to be a real game changer. It would have been very easy for me, having made the bulk of my living selling digital singles and albums, to be afraid of streaming. And I was, certainly to some degree, but I was also excited about it because I knew that it was possible to generate real, like meaningful revenue in a way that, like in places where people weren't buying music, you could get them to stream music for free.
Right.
And so that was a big, like a sea change for us, certainly, as everybody shifted to streaming. And now, as the streaming services they have everybody, they're lowering their rates, at will to some degree.
For artists.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. The rates at which they pay out.
Yeah.
Yes, that they're lowering those, and they have continued to do so. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them have continued to lower their rates, and they were already paying, a pittance. That's something, we're learning to navigate this brave new world, and it keeps changing. And I think that, from an intellectual place, it's stimulating. It's exciting to try to figure out, how do we keep making money? How do we stay in business? But it's also terrifying. Certainly, like, this is how I feed my family. This is how I, keep the roof over their heads. Like the idea that all streams aren't paid out the same. That's the closest I get to a murderous rage is when I think about that. Like every stream should be paid the same by every service. The accounting should be absolutely transparent. Like you get this many streams, you get this many dollars. There should be no tricks to that. But taking a page out of the major label playbook, the services they don't do that. I got something like 500 million streams on one of these services that I won't name before they started paying. And they were like, well, it's exposure. I'm like, yeah, you can die from exposure. Like, navigating this world it's fascinating. It's been exciting. And, to glass half full this situation, I have been making my entire living making music for 12 years.
Right.
Like, that feels pretty good.
That feels pretty good, all right. Ron Pope's latest album, Bone Structure, is out now. Look for it wherever you find the music you listen to. And look for his tour dates at ronpopemusic.com. And now I'm about to hit you with some additional websites you're going to want to take note of. At the top of the show, I told you about how you can receive a $100 discount on a Berklee Online course. So here's how. Head over to musicismylifepod.com right now and redeem this special offer. You'll also get a link to all sorts of free resources. Also, check out BerkleeOnSite.com. At the time of this recording, Berklee Online's annual music conference is May 29th and 30th in Boston, Massachusetts, and registration is open with a limited time early bird discount. Anyway, this episode was edited by Talia Smith, mastered by Gabriel Reifer Cohen, all visual assets coordinated by Mike DeBenedictis, social media by Brooke Larson, web assistance courtesy of Mark Thomas, Steve Zimmerman, Joe McDonough, and Chris Keene. I wrote and recorded the Music Is My Life theme song, but the expert remixing comes courtesy of Lily Dickinson. Special thanks to Kate Rackvick, and thanks to you for listening. Take note to join us on Monday, March 30th for special guest Black Belt Eagle Scout, who is currently on tour. We'll talk soon.